Hey, everyone who's logging on, we'll just give it a couple of minutes to wait until the rest of the participants log on, and we'll begin shortly. Awesome. I think we can get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Via's webinar. I'm Maite, one of the co-founders of Via, and here with me is Itziar, also a co-founder of Via.
Hey, everyone.
And Camilo, one of our Via fellows who will be sharing his story in a few minutes. And we're very excited to be kicking off this webinar. We want to welcome you. There are a lot of people logging in across multiple MBA and graduate school programs, from those of you who are current students looking for summer internships, to those of you who are graduating looking for full-time offers, to those of you who are already working and looking to transition into something different. We have people logging in from all over the world, from the West Coast to the East Coast in the US, and abroad from Mexico to Singapore and everywhere in between. So a warm welcome, and we're really happy to have you. A brief overview of our agenda for today. So we'll start with a brief overview of who we are and why we started Via. We will then share stories of a Via fellow who is live now, Camilo, who will share his experience on the ground. We will then go into our partner companies and what our roles are with them. Then we'll get into how the sign up and the application process works. This should take more or less 30 minutes. And then we will dive into live Q&A, which will last around 15 minutes or so. In terms of Q&A, a few pointers on logistics for that. So you can submit questions at any point throughout the webinar using the toggle button that says Q&A on the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we will address the most relevant ones during the live Q&A section at the end. Don't worry if we don't get to answer your question during the live session. We will definitely answer it as soon as the webinar is over through email. And if you can't stay for the whole webinar, no worries. We will be recording and posting the webinars on our website. And so with that, we'll kick it off.
Cool, let's get started. So what is Via? Via is a platform that connects professionals like many of you to high growth and mission-driven companies around the world for meaningful work experiences. And that can mean an internship, so a short-term engagement, anywhere from 1 to 12 months, or a permanent position, either of the two. We work with a lot of professionals like many of you who are in transition moments and sort of considering what to do next. So we encourage you to see Via also as a way to explore and prototype what it would be like to be in a new industry, maybe a new city, moving from corporate to startups, or just honing in on a particular skill while you design your career more longer term. An important caveat of all Via projects is all our placements are in person. So if you're looking for remote work, there's a lot of great websites and platforms out there for that. We believe the magic happens when you're on the ground, when you're connecting with the team directly. And so that's what we focus on. A quick intro on us, and Camilo will introduce himself in a moment, but Maite and I are the co-founders of Via, which we incubated and designed at Stanford a couple of years ago and launched in Silicon Valley with the help of an amazing team and the support of some awesome advisors and venture capital investors. Just a little bit on our backgrounds and sort of the why we started Via to begin with. As for me, before Via, I spent about 10 years leading innovation and acceleration programs for startups and growing companies around the world. So had the chance to work with some incredible companies, like a lot of the ones that we work with at Via today, and sort of spend time and live in many different cities, from Sydney to Nairobi to Hong Kong. And so found a passion for enabling the missions of a lot of these companies, and that's a core mission of what we do today at Via. And also just designing a lifestyle where I could experience the world and spend time with many different cultures and places.
Cool. And I'm Maite, also one of the co-founders of Via. And I started my career spending almost 4 years at a large investment bank in New York City. And after then, I helped co-found an education marketplace in Latin America. So really interested in the career fulfillment space before getting into the MBA. And during my MBA at Stanford, I didn't really know what I wanted to do after I graduated. I was interested in a lot of different things. And the companies that kept coming to campus to recruit for MBA students were very large CPG firms, very large consulting firms, very large banks. And I knew that I didn't want to go back into that world. I wanted something different, but really couldn't find an easy way of accessing that. And I also wanted to have a global career and living in multiple cities. And so instead of recruiting for other companies, we decided to then launch Via partly out of that experience. And we started Via out of Stanford, as Itier mentioned, and we are venture backed by leading VC investors in the Valley. And since then, there have been stories of Via candidates and fellows who have worked in more than 15 cities around the world, all with stories of growth, meaning, and impact. And I think the one thing that brings them all together, and that might be bringing all of you to this webinar today, is the question around, what do I want to do with my career, and what else is out there? We know that the way our generation is thinking about our work is dramatically shifting. We want growth, we want meaning, we want impact, we want fulfillment, but how do you get there? And it isn't just about finding a job, because the reality is that you will spend more than 40% of your remaining time awake in the world at work. Think about that, more than 40% of your remaining time awake in the world at work. So when we talk about what we do at work, we're really talking about how do you want to design the days in your life, right? And at Via, we like to think that everything you do in the world can be designed, including first and foremost your career. And so we want you to see Via as a tool to help you navigate that big question. But instead of telling you what it's like to be a Via fellow, we have here with us today a very special guest. Hey Camilo, how are you? You can now unmute.
Hey Maite, how are you?
Awesome. Camilo is a current MBA student at Harvard Business School. How is the Boston winter treating you, Camilo?
Hey guys, yeah, it's going well, of course, as you can imagine, very, very cold, not compared to Latin America, but it's going great.
Awesome. So Camilo, I'll start by when you found Via, you had been working at a large bank in New York, and you had already been admitted to the MBA, and you had a few months before you started the MBA to do something different. How were you thinking about that time? What were you looking to do?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I spent 6 years and a half at an investment bank, and when I found out about HBAs, I really wanted to do something else. I really wanted to have a different experience. And so I definitely had in mind this startup world. And then there was another thing in my mind that was Brazil. For some reason, I really wanted to be in Brazil because I had been practicing my Portuguese for a while, but I also wanted to get out of the experience this second part. And so I met you guys, and then I found Via and saw the opportunity of combining both things, and that's why I ended up just applying to basically projects in São Paulo.
Awesome. And where did you end up working? Tell us where you were working and what sort of role you had there.
Yeah. So I ended up going to Creditas, which is a fintech startup in São Paulo. It's actually a company. It was founded by a Spanish guy, and the story of the company is actually really cool because they found a market opportunity in the financial services space in Brazil that has a lot of potential, and the company has been growing incredibly. Basically, they give loans with collateral to individuals. So if you're an individual, you can just keep your house or your car as a guarantee, and obviously they offer the entire cool experience of doing this online with great service, etc. And cool. what I did there was I was at the business development team, and so I was working basically new ideas in terms of distribution channels and partnerships with other companies.
Cool. And what was it like, your first experience working at a startup? What was the environment like? What was that like?
It was great, actually. I really loved the sense of community. People loved being there, and they actually were very proud of being there. Everybody felt like they were contributing to the company as if they were owners, and so that was really good to see. It was also very cool to see how you just have to go and work and find your way in different projects. And so what I mean by that is when you're at a bank and a big bank, for instance, you have access to all of these resources, and then at the startup you just have a project and you need to move with it and just do your part, right? Like, and so that's good because you learn to be very resourceful.
Yeah, just do it, which is something I would
Exactly.
like to say.
Exactly.
What was it like living in Brazil for a few months? What was your day-to-day like, maybe outside of work?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great place. It's a great place for foreigners, for instance. They love people from abroad, and so they're very welcoming. The city itself, I was living very close to the office, so I didn't really have any issues. I used to work like very close, so I would walk every day. I had time obviously to go to the gym, and I made some very good friends at work as well, and so we would hang out a lot. Like there were some people from other countries and also locals. I loved it, honestly. I love the city. Even though Sao Paulo is not supposed to be a very touristic city, I found like different spots every weekend just to see the city, and I really liked it there, actually.
And you traveled to Iguazu, right? You did some.
Yeah, I went to Iguazu, I went to Rio, yeah, definitely Ilhabela, which is like a beach there. Yeah.
How's your Portuguese?
It's better, yeah. It's good. I ended up working in Portuguese, actually. Like the one funny thing was that the second week or third week, I actually started talking to some new potential partners, and I had to just make like sales calls in Portuguese. Imagine that. Like, of course, the first one was a little bit challenging, but then it was great practice, and they actually really liked that it was like a foreigner offering them some things, and it ended up going very well.
Cool. And so then if we fast forward a few months after you finished your time at Creditas and you're back, you start your MBA, you're in Boston now, how did that experience inform what you want to do going forward? And the parentheses here is Creditas keeps bugging us that they want you back. So how are you thinking about what you want to do and what the next steps are, and how did that experience help you think about that?
Yeah, well, I really love the fact that I had the experience. I definitely recommend anybody who has in their mind like the idea of exploring a startup at some point in life, you should definitely do it. And I think you should definitely do it under these conditions, because it's a definite period of time, and so you get to pick some projects, etc. I definitely like the experience. For now, I was always in the advisory world, and so with the switch to Creditas, I kind of wanted to start being on the other side, on basically a corporate or an actual company, and so it was definitely helpful. Like I now I'm gonna do my summer at a larger company, but still on the corporate side, and so I think it's definitely part of that process of exploring, of doing something different, and I think it's super helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Camilo, thank you so much for your time. My last question would be any advice that you have for the people who are logging in. They might be current students, they might be already at a job. Any advice in terms of how to navigate or any advice on your process?
Yeah, no, I would tell you guys just to be open to things. For instance, in my case, I didn't even speak the language well, and yet I was open to do it, and it was the most amazing experience. So just just be open to all the opportunities that you find, and if you find something cool, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out, and you'll do a great job there, and then you may get some extra points like the language or getting to see an amazing country or something like that. So I would definitely try to pursue something like this, especially if you are trying to explore something.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Camilo, for your time. Really great to see you here.
No, thank you for having me.
Good luck with the winter in Boston. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Super. So stories like Camilo, we have hundreds of these around the world. I'd like to share just one additional story before we continue. This one is not a short internship type of match, but a full-time placement. So Gautam had spent his early career in Teach for India back home, and he was passionate about the education space. Since arriving in the US, he was looking to understand the world of education and new models in education and deep tech in education. And so through Via, he is currently working full-time at a Series A edtech startup in the Valley. And so we not only do short-term placements like Camilo with Creditas, but also full-time permanent positions at these same companies as well.
Cool. So when we designed Via, we wanted it to be global from the very start. So all the cities you see here are just some examples of places where we have projects or we've done placements. We have placed people in over 17, I think the number 17 cities around the world, from the Bay Area to New York to Cape Town. And a lot of this is with amazing companies that are really breaking ground in their industries wherever they are. So we do a lot of work to really be in touch with these ecosystems, with local investors in each of these places, and with global organizations too that can introduce us to the leading teams around the world.
Awesome. Just diving deeper into what our partner companies are like. We now work with more than 100 partner companies around the world, and we and our team at Via spend a lot of time and effort really scouting and vetting who we think are stellar management teams that are breaking ground in their industries around the world and who are passionate about what they do and want to change the way the world works. And we have an ongoing and very direct relationship with them. We would divide the type of companies that we work with into three main buckets. The first is tech startups like Creditas, where Camilo was working. These are typically well-funded, fast-growing startups in the US and abroad that are very innovative and disruptive within their industry, anywhere from 50 or so employees up to 1,000. So not super early stage, but more later on in their process. A second category of companies is more social impact and mission-oriented companies. So these are companies that are focused on addressing very large fundamental societal problems. Examples of that are a renewable energy company in East Africa that provides solar panels to rural households, or a company that focuses on providing healthcare access to below the pyramid populations in Latin America, to an education academy based out of Johannesburg, South Africa. And the third category of companies that we work with is what we call the unique or the adventure category. And these are very different experiences. One example of that is we work with Asia's #1 water park based in Bali, Indonesia, or a travel and tourism company in the Bahamas, or a handmade artisan bag startup in Oaxaca.
Cool. So going into a little bit more detail on the types of projects. So today Via is focused solely on business roles. We will get into engineering and tech roles later on. So if you have that type of background, stay tuned. But the roles that we have today are in business development and sales, marketing, data analysis, finance, and it'll really come down to your specific experience and skill set and what the company needs. Oftentimes, our companies are opportunistic when it comes to talent, and so they'll co-create a role that really leverages what you bring to the table. So online, you'll see very specific job descriptions, head of people or business development manager, and the specific requirements for each of those roles. An important thing to keep in mind here is if you love the company, you love their mission, but the job posted isn't exactly what you're looking for, we encourage you to apply anyway. We have, again, deep relationship with a lot of these companies who are often willing, if they see someone they really like, They might have other openings that they're willing to entertain. And so you could just jot down that sort of note in your application. Some examples of projects that we have open now, you can be Venture Capital Fellow at Bloomberg Beta, which is a leading VC in Silicon Valley, Sales Manager at Nimbler, which is an AI tech company that has offices in San Francisco and Mexico City, and many others that you can just explore on the Via website, which is www.via.work if you haven't seen it yet. And you can filter by industry, by region, and really explore what types of things you'd be interested in. An important thing to keep in mind is anything that you see on the website, it means the company is actively vetting candidates and the role has not yet been closed. So as soon as a position is closed, we'll turn that off immediately. Oftentimes there isn't a strict deadline for companies, and we really adapt to how they work. Again, they're really open to evaluating candidates, and if the position is open, it means they're consistently evaluating candidates, and there might be more than one seat for a given role, right? So if it's, say, business development at Ilu Mexico, it might mean that they're hiring for 4 positions. So it's not a one-to-one relationship with what you see posted and the roles that actually might be open. Yeah, that's it on projects. It's really enjoy the exploration process as well. We find when we talk to a lot of our fellows that they end up applying to things that they may not have considered initially. And so the exploration is a key part of just understanding what you would be open to.
Awesome. That leads me to beginning how it works and what the process is like. So the first piece is explore. As Itziar mentioned, you can browse any of our opportunities at any time online. And keep in mind that new projects are being posted on an ongoing way and typically on a weekly basis. So we recommend that you check constantly back to the website to see if any new postings have been shared. Also, if you sign up, we'll add you to our newsletters where you'll be receiving any new updates on projects that might be relevant. The exploration piece might be something worth getting into, because in many occasions, if you have a lot of things to choose from, it might be hard to know where you want to take your career. And so for those of you who are in that bucket, we're hosting a webinar with IDEO, the large design thinking consulting firm, on how to design your career and how to design your journey. More to come on that, but I strongly recommend that you join us for that webinar if exploration is kind of where you're at right now. The second step is basically to sign up. You can sign up through Via.work. We'll ask you about your background and your preferences, which helps us and our sophisticated algorithms find super tailored matches for you. So the more detailed info that you give us in your sign up, the easier it will be and the more targeted it will be for us to match you with projects that we think are relevant for your background. We'll not only ask you about what things you have done in the past, but also where you're looking to go in the future. So a forward-looking profile there as well. And we'll also ask you if you have any dream companies that you'd like to signal. So a lot of you already have a specific company in mind, and maybe you haven't had a chance to connect with them. So let us know which company that is, and we'll try our best to make that happen. The next part is application. So you can, once you sign up, you can apply to our projects directly through the website by submitting a brief statement of interest, which is what you see here on the presentation. And the application statement is just a brief 1 or 2 paragraphs, or why you think you make a great fit for this role. So why you're interested in this role, why you like the company. Obviously, if you submit generic statements that are the same for all companies, those are less strong as very specific application statements that let us know that you're really interested in working for this company. A lot of you that are on the webinar now have already started applying, so that's awesome. For those of you that haven't started, please sign up. That would be the first step to beginning this journey with you. Beyond being able to apply directly to projects, you will also be proactive. We will also proactively reach out to you to suggest specific companies that we think you would make a good fit for. And finally, once you apply to a specific project or role, we will review your application and let you know within 2 or 3 days if you make a good fit for the role and if we're sharing your profile with the company. Keep in mind that projects and roles are competitive, and we do look for specific skill sets and backgrounds that these companies are looking for, and we will provide any feedback at any point along the way. Once we share your application with the partner company, they will let us know within at most 2 weeks if they are interested in an interview with you. at which point we will turn it over to the company and they will run the interview process themselves. You might have one or multiple interviews with several people at the same company. We will help you coordinate this and we'll help you prep for those interviews. We'll give you context of what we know about the company and how to really prepare and perform your best during that interview. And we'll have several touch points along the way with both you and the partner company. Beyond the interview, when it comes to the offer moment, we will also help you with any terms and logistics, etc. And once you're on the ground, most importantly, we'll help you connect with our growing community of fellows, people like Camilo, who will be in many interesting places around the world, so that you can connect with this growing community of global souls who are looking to experience new things.
Cool. So we'll open up for live Q&A shortly, but before that, we wanted to preempt a lot of the questions that we receive on a regular basis, just to put those out there, since many of you might have these doubts. I think Maite mentioned a little bit how applications work, but they're ongoing and rolling, right? So if a project is live, it means the company's reviewing candidates on a batch basis, right? So what we do is, as soon as you apply, we vet, see if you're a good match for what the company's looking for, and constantly send batches of candidates to a company. Companies vary in their hiring sort of tendencies, but roughly a role or a set of roles is filled in around 2 months. But again, they might open up more roles, and so there's no strict deadlines for when a role will close, and if so, we'll definitely let you know so that you can plan around that. But I think the best way to go about that is, if you see something you're interested in, the application is pretty straightforward, so we encourage you to apply, and that's irrespective of when you're available, right? So when you apply in your profile, we ask you about your availability, which is an important field to fill in. So as soon as you're interested, you can apply, and then noting your availability, right, we'll adapt the timing for when you're available. So important to fill that into your application. In terms of compensation, we get asked all the time, are these positions paid? And the answer is yes. We don't believe in unpaid work. So all projects, both internships and of course long-term, are compensated competitively with local market rates, right? Of course, we are a global placement company, and so we adapt to cost of living depending on the city that you're in, and make sure that the salary and compensation is aligned to a competitive rate locally. Once you get to the interview and offer process, we'll help you guide through those conversations, negotiations if need be. But we work with companies that are interested in getting diverse talent, and they're invested in the process, which really helps. In terms of duration, so the minimum commitment to any project, and all of them, by the way, are full-time, is 4 weeks. Typically, it's more about 2 months is sort of the shortest end. And of course, we have permanent placement. So there's no sort of maximum length. The average, I would say, is for internships is about 3 months, but there's everything in between, and there's openness, right? If you are the right candidate, to have this adapt to your needs. Our companies are pretty sort of adaptive in that sense. Finally, on timing and deadlines, some of you are considering a transition for permanent roles. Some of you are starting to think about your summer opportunities. For those that are thinking about summer internships, we recommend you start looking at things ASAP. We are including something on the website now where we're going to mark all the ones that are open for internships, since that we recognize isn't exactly clear. A lot of our companies that have ongoing permanent roles with us do want to fill summer roles as well, so that'll be clearer shortly. But a lot of our companies do want to close their summer interns starting now. If you're not sure yet, though, we will have companies that decide right up until the summer. And so that's the good thing about having these rolling openings that sort of adapt to your timelines and those of our companies as well.
Cool. Before we jump into live Q&A, just wanted to say a big thank you all for joining, and hope you're a part of our community and our story in changing the way the world works, and our growing community of fellows who are designing their careers in very meaningful ways. You can send us an email at info@via, or Maite and Itziar. Our emails are right there. We're always open to your feedback. We've been in your position, and that's why we started this company. So we want to hear from you what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Again, anything is worth it. So thank you for that feedback. As a next step, please sign up through Via.work so that we can begin working with you and understanding where you want to take your career next and where Via can be helpful. We've also relaunched some of our social media channels, so follow us on Via.work through Instagram and other places. We'll now open it up to live Q&A. As a reminder on how this works, you can submit any Q&A through the Q&A button on your Zoom panel. And it's anonymous, so we won't be calling specific people out. No question is a bad question. And if we can't get to your question now, we'll certainly send you an email once the webinar is over. And actually, Camilo has very nicely stayed and is also open for any questions. So if you have any specific questions to Camilo, Itziar and I will be reading them, and Camilo will be answering any question that is directed specifically to him. And so with that, let me start screening some of the questions that we're getting here. On language and requirements to apply, which Camilo mentioned this briefly, so there's no requirement of learning or knowing any specific language of any country abroad. We only work with English-speaking teams. And so if there were a specific requirement for language, we would clearly state that in the project description, but the expectation is that you know English and that's it. Camilo is an exception because he learned Portuguese, and that's one of the reasons why he wanted to apply to Brazil. But there are people who have worked at Creditas that have not learned any Portuguese, and that's never a problem. So there's no requirement to speak any specific language. On interviews, so who will be interviewing me? Typically, it'll be your manager or the HR lead at that partner company. You may have more than one interview. Typically, it's multiple interviews with different people in the team, starting with your hiring manager.
We're getting one here on compensation. The postings don't list compensation or certain roles. What is the market rate that they're paid in? We don't list specific compensation for roles because that is catered to the experience that the candidate has on board. There's usually a range of years of experience that they'd consider, and because one posting might correspond to multiple openings. So that's why the compensation isn't listed there. But what we'll do and what we do with our companies is provide a guideline and a range of acceptable competitive local rates, and help you through the process as well as you negotiate that offer. It's important to consider too, there's a wide range of types of companies that we work with. So not only the geography, but the type of company, right? If you're in a small nonprofit or social impact focused company, the going rate won't be the same as some of the larger tech companies. So something to keep in mind. But we do offer competitive pay, both for internships and permanent placements. A couple of questions around timing. We covered some of this, but how long does it take to hear back? A lot of this, of course, is the company's decision. So there's parts of timing that we can't control as Via. What we do commit to doing is our assessment is really quick. Obviously, technology makes it automatic, and that's a lot of the product that we've developed at Via, but it's never just technology. So we have team reviews that'll check and double check our shortlists and our vetting of candidates for particular roles. But that just takes a couple of days after you apply. So the Via vetting is pretty quick. And then we send batches of candidates to the company. So at that point, you'll quickly know whether you've passed the first step. And as Maite was mentioning before, we give companies 2 weeks to give feedback on any particular batch. And then at any time, you can check the status of your application by emailing us at info@via.work. So we're always happy to tell you what's going on with a specific situation. Or you can log in and see your status with any of your applications online. But the time frame to keep in mind in terms of feedback is 2 weeks. And it might just be that the company is taking a little bit longer, and we'll definitely let you know at that point. But we try to keep it, the communication really frequent and ongoing so you know where you stand at any given time.
I'll take one on work authorization and visa, which is a great question. So for any projects and roles listed in the US, you are required to have US work authorization. For those of you who are current students, CPT and OPT works perfectly. Abroad, it really depends on the specific country that you're going to and what your citizenship is. For short-term projects, there's no issue because typically countries have a period of time where you can travel without a work permit, and so we'll do that directly through Via. And for permanent placements, let's have a conversation about that offline, depending again on where you're going and what your citizenship is. We have a different way of doing it in different places around the world, and we do that all the time. So definitely don't stop applying because of work authorization questions. Apply, and let's have that conversation once you've applied. On flight and housing, again, whether companies cover flight/housing, so you are responsible for booking your own flights and securing housing on the ground. Now, do keep in mind that you are being paid a salary, so think about this as if it were any other job. This is more a question around summer internships, I believe, rather than full-time placements. But you'll be having a salary that will more than compensate for your local living expenses, and it's as if you were flying to start a job anywhere else. So that's all covered through your local salary.
Question on, we didn't cover this, how many applications or how many applications can I submit? So there's no limit to how many you can submit at any given time. We do suggest that you only apply to opportunities that you're seriously considering. If you are open to many things and you're sort of not really sure exactly what you want, starting out with 3 to 5 that really interest you is a good sort of starting point. Oftentimes it's an iterative process, right? You might not do well with the first company, you might do great in the second process. And so we definitely sort of encourage openness and sort of trying out different things if you don't know, if you're not sure exactly what you're going for. But 3 to 5 is a good place to start. And then we're uploading projects all the time as well. And so if you see something new that interests you, it could be sort of an ongoing application process. Another interesting question here is, have any fellows done consecutive placements? Can I do this as sort of a gap year? Love that question. We're actually designing a product to help you specifically with that. So on a one-on-one basis, we're happy to sort of consult and see what exactly you're looking for and how we can go about doing that. We had that happen, for example, with someone who was looking to explore health tech in emerging markets. And so Via could be a great platform for you to say, okay, can I do a 3-month project in East Africa and then Latin America? And all of a sudden you build sort of a curriculum for yourself, if we call it that, to really help you explore something more in depth if you have more time. So we love that idea. It's about designing it and really understanding what you're looking to do. So if you are looking for that, shoot us an email and we're happy to jump on a call with you and really understand what you're looking for so that we can design sort of the timing and sort of sequence and how that could work.
Another question on whether postings that we have from our companies are they offered exclusively through Via? That's a good question. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So a lot of these companies, we have a very direct relationship with them, and they will oftentimes only post a specific job offering through Via because we're their preferred channel for that. In other situations, they're looking in other channels as well. So a combination of both things on that.
Do internships convert to full-time offers? That's a great question. And of course, that depends entirely on the company's preferences, your performance during the interview. There are some roles, though, that are short. The intention of the company is to consider that long-term extension. In other words, it can become a full-time position. And so we'll definitely let you know if that's the case. More and more companies are using this as a way to also test, right, whether it's the right fit for both sides, which we think is really smart. And so if that's the intent of the company, we'll definitely set clear the expectations from the start. Others are just short-term by design because that's a specific need from the company, but you'll know that as soon as you enter into the interview process. Something else to keep in mind is before, if you land an interview with any of these companies, you'll have a call with the Via team to coach you before that interview, which we found is really helpful since of course we have a lot of context on the company, we've been working with them, we've had fellows work there as well, we know about the company culture, and so we like to help you be prepared for those conversations. And it's really an evaluation for you to see as well, right, if it's the right fit for you. And so as much as we can help you prepare for that, we'll definitely do. And those sort of nuances on that specific position and company will come up at this point.
One question for Camilo, and Camilo, you can, no worries on the video, whatever you prefer, but there's a question here on how easy or hard was it to get up to speed with what you were working on and begin to add value in your team on the ground? So how easy or hard was it to get up to speed? There he is.
Hey guys, I'm back. No, it's super easy. I mean, and obviously they're also, usually because it's a startup, it's kind of open for you to just start working, and that's what they want you to do. So it's super easy to get up to speed. Basically, they give you a lot of autonomy. I guess it will depend on the company, but I would imagine that since most of these are small companies and startups, you're going to have a lot of autonomy. You're going to be able to propose. You're going to be able to be proactive. And so it's up to you, I would say. But it's easy. I didn't really find any obstacles getting up to speed.
And another question for you is, would you, if you could go back, would you go back to work in Brazil?
Well, I would definitely consider Brazil, actually. I not only worked there, but I also met a bunch of interesting people there. And so, yes, definitely Brazil is one of my options post-MBA. Yeah.
And another one that I think it could be for anyone, but we'll have you answer it, Camilo. Any advice for a successful application and interview process with these companies?
I think that for the application, I mean, Maite and Itziar just mentioned it's not a hard process to apply, to be honest. And so just be honest in what you're saying, what motivates you, what is it that you want to get out of the experience, and I think that's about it. And then in terms of the interview, I found the process very transparent as well, and like it was I had conversations with people from the company, and they just want to understand why you want to go there, and obviously what you've done before, and what are those things that you can contribute to. But it wasn't, there's nothing tricky around it. It's just be yourself and try to just prepare obviously some of your experiences, etc. And try to show how you fit at the company.
Cool. I think those are it, unless you're seeing something that I'm not seeing.
There's a couple of more specific case-by-case questions. We'll definitely get back to you specifically with those needs. So expect an email from us. But I think in terms of general questions, we've covered most of them.
Awesome. Also, if you have any feedback specifically about this webinar, again, we're happy to hear that. You can submit it through Q&A, through chat, through email, anywhere. Always want to improve what we do. And so thank you all. And a huge thank you to you, Camilo, for joining. I hope you go back to your MBA classes now on time. And
thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks to all. And as a next step, please sign up to Via.work, and we're looking forward to getting you to new places. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.